Welcome back to What Would You Ask podcast. My next guest, also in the kitchen, Hell's Kitchen, except different role. Right? She's not a chef trying to impress the big boss. She's in the inner circle, which I think is really cool. She appeared on Fox's hit show, Hell's Kitchen, season 7 through 14, and then came back for 16. I think that's correct. She holds the record for the most seasons as the red team sous chef with 9, and then also most consecutive seasons. Did you know that, Andi? Did you hold those records? And then the most consecutive seasons with 8. So we have one of the staples of Hell's Kitchen with us today. She is first, I don't know if it's only still, but first and only sous chef, at least my notes say that, to kick a chef out of service. That's interesting too. I don't know if it's factual. We're going to find that out. But that's what my notes say. So I'm happy that she's here with us. She told me that her friends call her Andi, but I should call her Andrea. I'm not sure what that means. I think it means we're not friends. Andrea Van Willigan, welcome to What Would You Ask podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm glad you're here. Tell us a little bit about your background that got you involved with the whole shows. I mean, we're not only on Hell's Kitchen. You were also in Kitchen Nightmares and other shows with Gordon.
Yeah. So how it kind of happened, I worked for a chef named Michael Mina. I was his corporate executive sous chef. So we went around the U.S. opening restaurants. Hell's Kitchen had done an episode in Atlantic City at the Borgata. And the talent producer ran into my direct boss, Anthony Karen, and said, hey, I don't think Gordon's very happy or something's going on with the new female sous chef. You know, do you guys have anybody? Do you have anybody in mind? And that was kind of, I think it was around 2008. So the economy just hit, and Michael would kind of hide us in restaurants. So I would, be working in Atlantic City, but he'd be billing Atlantic City for me to be there and those type of things. So, so I said, yeah, I have this chef Andi. I think she would be good. I think their words were like, do you have someone that's cute and that can cook? And I was
Ding, ding, ding.
like, thanks, chef. But anyway, so I ended up meeting Gordon in Vegas at the Four Seasons because I think he was doing some kind of speech there. And just he kind of ran down and said, yeah, I think you'd be good. Okay, let's meet in California. I had no clue what I was doing. Didn't really know anything about TV at all whatsoever. I just knew that I was going to go there and be a sous chef for the show. So we did the first show, and then I went back to work with Michael because Michael said, Gordon, don't steal her from me. And then eventually he did. So he called me after we filmed one season of Hell's Kitchen and said, can you help me do a show called Kitchen Nightmares? Because at the time, I think Scott was unable to work on the show with him. So I did Kitchen Nightmares with him. And I kind of, since I'm come from a background of opening restaurants, that's how I treated each restaurant. I treated it almost as a mini opening. And so when we were done with that season, he said, you know what? I never want to open up a U.S. restaurant with a UK team because although we speak the same language, we don't. And he said, I'd like you to become my U.S. chef and help me open restaurants out here. So that was kind of how it happened. And I wore a very, very big gray hat. One day we'd be filming Hell's Kitchen for 5 weeks, and then we'd be opening a restaurant in Vegas, and then we'd be in Canada doing another, restaurant back and forth, doing QVC, Jimmy Kimmel, and it was just crazy life for 8.5 years.
Wow. That's and we'll find out where that is today and all that as we go through. So your first season was season 7, right? That's correct. And you did that, and then you start. Do you remember any of the? I know we're here to talk about Hell's Kitchen, but I'm sure our viewers that are Ramsay fans are watching Kitchen Nightmares as well. Do you remember any of the restaurants that were over challenging or have memorable moments to you?
Oh, think back? Nightmares?
Yeah.
Oh God, I mean, a couple of restaurants that were in New Orleans were very hard. There was just some drug use that we didn't see going on that we would just hear over microphones. And then it just, the setup in the city is kind of hard with just the all the rats and everything.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that was fun. Because to be honest with Kitchen Nightmares, I had about a week to prep with the crew, and then we would be in a parking lot in a trailer kitchen prepping food, and then we would move into the new kitchen and train that whole staff. But we had to clean up, like, so we would get there at 5 o'clock in the morning and go, okay, like we got to move in a new oven, we have to reset their kitchen, we have to clean this thing up. So we were on our hands and knees scrubbing, and it wasn't.
Oh, you were part of that
always
team.
fun.
You were part of that team that does the makeover. Like
Yeah,
the,
in the
oh,
kitchen, yes. So
and then you train the people. That must have been good too, because they got Ramsay. Some of them did not really, mesh well with him, and had some pushback.
no, I have one story where I forget where we were, but one of the cooks said he didn't want to serve chicken wings, and it was kind of like a bar almost, like it was, it was barish food, and he said, I won't serve, looked at me in the face and said, I won't serve chicken wings unless you get on a pair of orange shorts. And I fucking hopped over the counter and I was like, what did you say to me? And then stop production. Like, I was
Oh
like,
my
I'm
God.
not a Hooters girl, but
Well, I didn't mean to throw you a curveball, but that's a funny story. So take us through. So you're on the Hell's Kitchen. You're working with Ramsay. You're not back with Michael anymore. You end up spending 8+ years with him. Take us through the first few seasons with Hell's Kitchen and the role of the sous chef. Was that one that's evolved over time, or right off the bat were you the psychiatrist to the chefs and the babysitter and the disciplinarian, as well as the right hand person to Ramsay?
I just treated it as I would any like of my normal jobs without being on TV and walking into the set and there'd be live animals some days. But you know, I love to mentor and guide chefs, and that's what I do right now in my career. And part of it is, yes, babysitting, and part of it is, picking them up and, teaching them. And so that kind of just came naturally. I'm also very competitive, so I really wanted to beat Scott. Like, I wanted my team to win, or I wanted to beat James. Like, it was, as much as we were a team, I had that little side where I'm like, my girl's gonna win,
Yeah.
So, and just being Gordon's right hand, we would see things and we would, kind of let him know, and what's kind of going on and stuff like that, and who we would see kind of rising to the occasion over the other. So,
Is it obvious that there's someone? I mean, you're in the industry. You have a well-respected reputation yourself. Are you looking in the first week, two, and saying, I told you before we got on air that I'm watching season 10. Do you know that Christina is definitely a front runner early on, just the way you see her prepare and cook?
I think it depends. Yeah, we've been in this industry for a long time. I always say that I can sit down in an interview and interview someone, and I can see in their eyes if they're weak or they're not, if they're going to make it or they're not going to make it.
Yeah.
In the back of the house, would we make bets? Yeah, but the first week bet. But I think you can tell right off the bat if someone has talent and they're serious about it. And then are they trainable?
Yeah.
You can teach someone how to cook, but you can't teach passion and
Right.
initiative and anything like that. So.
Interesting. So take us through what the schedule's like for you people. I mean, it seems like, I mean, and I know we're looking at an edited version, but there's times when you guys are there at 4 o'clock in the morning banging pans, and then there's times when you're there at night while they're cleaning up and they're doing punishment. Tell us like what your schedule and Scott's schedule, not Scott specifically, but you two sous chefs, what was that schedule like for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, so we would beforehand we kind of get like an outline of what the season may look like, and then daily we would be getting like a shooting schedule. So I don't know how much I can go into like the back production of it, because I don't want to ruin anything, but we would get there quite early, and it also depends on what we're filming. So if we have two things, there's a 1 a day and there's a 2 a day. So a 1 a day is where we literally have a challenge, and then that goes through a reward and a punishment, and then we have service that night. So those days are really, really long. We will start at 4 o'clock in the morning and then probably end around like 10 or so. And then the 2 a days are a little bit better, because you'll have a challenge with a reward and a punishment, and then the next day you'll have the service.
Got it.
So, our schedule is we get there bright and early. We start prepping. We make sure, we kind of like a normal kitchen. We receive all of our goods, break them down, get them in the kitchens and put away. And then, basically when we're with, the cast, we start prep and just, help them out and make sure that they're fully prepped. I mean, the thing that Gordon always wanted to make sure that they're fully prepped and they're going to be successful and they're ready for service. As soon as he walks through the door, that's it. It's on them, So we've got them ready to the T.
Got it.
And then they need to perform. So
any truth to the rumors that there's occasional switch out of sugar to salt or anything like that to kind of set? Not you're saying the opposite of that. So, and I would believe you over the rumors that I've heard, but I heard there's maybe some sabotage that happens with the food prep that makes for more interesting TV. Any truth to that?
Not at all. To be honest with you, we would get in trouble if they weren't ready.
Yeah.
If they weren't fully prepped and everything was to the T, we would get screamed at. So
yeah, I imagine that, and I've done What Would You Ask podcast has done a bunch of series. We're doing Shark Tank and we're doing Survivor, and I shouldn't say we've done Survivor, we've done Amazing Race. We're doing everything that's competitive, that asks for people to strive sometimes and reach farther than they even can reach. That's kind of the goal of this. And then what lessons do we learn personally and professionally from people doing that, right? A woman that finds out she has breast cancer while she's in the interview process says, I'm not backing out. I'm still going through it. And her goal with her family was to go for 1 week, and she went 32 days and ended up 5th. That's what this is about, right? It's about that chef. It was the mom chef. It wasn't the executive chef from, Brooklyn. And, she ends up in the black jackets, right? That's the kind of what we want to hear about. And so there has to be, what I'm learning through this, Andi, is there's also regulations that, look, we're giving away $250,000 salary at a restaurant. We need to be in line here, right? There's a legal side to this that we have to have. This is a game show.
100%.
Right?
Yeah. So if and that's where, Scott or James and I would work really, really closely together, because everything had to be the same on both sides. So like, not only did a deli cup of salt had to be in the same area that the other deli cup of salt on the other side was, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Everybody had to have equal amount of pans and, spoons and this, that, everything, because it's at the end of the day, it's a competition, and one can't be set up better than the other,
So just because I'm watching 10 again. So Robin trying to get beef Wellingtons from the blue team is probably frowned upon.
Yeah. But also, so there is one episode that it's like kind of our sabotage episode. And if you've watched the show from beginning, you know that there's one episode where we do try to trick them a bit. And it's where, the sous chefs are working on the line, and now one of the contestants is expoing and working right by Gordon. So
see that a lot.
Huh?
Yeah, I see that. That's usually at the end, right? To test their
and so it's trying to test them. So they'll be, and that's the hardest episode for us, because I have crab in a bag in my pocket, or I have like something else, or like I've gotten a lamb Wellington like under my like my apron, so I can pull it out and slice it. And you're trying not to let any of the other contestants on the line that you're working closely know what you're doing. Yeah. So that's the difficult one, but that's the only time where we kind of try to
your reaction and Scott's reaction, or James,
like,
the reactions are always great when the chef yells at you, like, this is supposed to be beef Wellington, I have lamb, Andi, and you're like, are you sure, chef? I'm positive that I did. It's just like,
I know.
It's so funny. And then Scott did one. He kept saying, check it. And I forgot who, Anton, I think, is the guy that, it just comes to my head. He said it was about risotto. It was lobster and supposed to be whatever. And he asked him to check it again. And then Anton went back and checked it. And Ramsay goes, oh, come on, get it. Like he was like, you caught him. Don't, when he says to check it again, don't check it again. Anyway, that's just funny stuff. I was hoping, by the way, Christina got involved in that whole go get the beef. And I'm like, no, don't you do it. And then she just kind of peeked in there and went, no. And I'm like, thank God, come on. She's my favorite on that. I always get a favorite that I try to pull for, even though I know the outcome.
Yeah.
It's not well. I'm not well. This is not how you should do it. So tell us a little bit more about, you're going through 7, 8, 9. Are you still working on, you're still opening restaurants. You're still doing Kitchen Nightmares when that comes up. Well, you got a lot of things going on.
Yeah, I was really busy.
And so how did you meet your husband? And I mean, through this process, I didn't know you were able to have a social life during this time.
Well, my husband, so when Gordon films the shows, he's required to have a security.
Yes.
And so my husband played for the San Francisco Giants minor league for a while, and then got injured, and started being head of security for like Ryan Seacrest and all those like voice shows and whatever. So the opportunity came up for him to be executive security for Gordon.
Oh, cool.
And so he came on the show, and I was like, oh, I think we met. It was an opening of Vegas, and he was there, and I was like, who's this new security guy? I was like, executive of security. So we worked together for about 2 years, and then he started, and we also worked, Kitchen Nightmares and Hotel Hell, so, and Master Chef. So so we started dating, and then we hid it from Gordon for quite a while, even though I think Gordon kind of knew, because we would be in the jet playing footsie. And then we told him, and so he was ecstatic. So.
Oh, that's cool. And then where did the idea of having, I don't know if it was your reception, but having that on TV, was that an idea that came from Fox, from you guys, from Gordon?
So what happens is they don't really tell us when they're going to pick the show back up, so I'm working corporate for Gordon Ramsay Group, and obviously have a wedding planned. And then all of a sudden they go, oh, well, we're gonna pick a season back up and start filming here. And you're like, oh, I have a wedding. Like, can I miss like 2 days of filming? But it's such a tight schedule that you can't. So what they decided to do at the very beginning is go, okay, well, Andi's going to be gone. We'll show that Andi's gone for 2 days. And Christina's filling in. And we're going to, then they asked, can we film part of your wedding, or can we take a photographer? Which I was kind of reluctant about at the very beginning, just because, I don't ever read the internet about anything about me, because I just don't want to be disappointed. So I just didn't want to be judged, but so I finally gave in and said, fine. The reason why Christina ended up staying on the episode, and I kind of worked more behind the scenes to help her, is because, again, to the rules, if I were to come back, they would, and those girls were like some of those girls were to lose and not make it. Yeah. They could say, well, you switched our sous chef, after 5 days or something like that. So that's how it all began. And then the reception and everything like that. So
cool. Tell us about your favorite. Do you have a favorite challenge? Do you have, I mean, you're there, you're seeing this stuff. Do you, I mean, I know I love the people are going to go, Nick, we don't care about you. Could you please talk to Andi? My favorite challenge by far is the one where they remake the dish that Ramsay makes. It's called something Make and Bake or something. I don't know. Something is name, right? And so, and they taste the stuff, and it really shows the skill of chefs. And because they're tasting the sauce and they're saying, or whatever it's called, and because there's just so many different names, and they're like, there's a sweetness in there, and I got to know what the sweetness is coming from. Like, you guys don't know how, and I hope that I'm not the only one that just has no clue of how you can actually look at a dish, remake it visually is one thing, but from a taste standpoint and knowing what's in it, I'm just blown away by that. The other one that's really my favorite is the taste test, because some people, I was watching on 10, and one of the guys, like Jason or Justin or something, gets 4 out of 4, which is, amazing. So anyway, do you have a favorite?
That was the taste one is probably my favorite. And also they're just their signature dish when they first come in, because some of them are just wild.
Yeah.
Like you cook something inside of a pumpkin and you put it on a plate, like, or you took a filet. I remember it. So the funniest story that I have is, or one of the funniest, is there's a contestant, I forget who it was, but he took a 8-ounce filet and started slicing it very, very thin to kind of make these rounds. And then he took small cutters and cut out more rounds. And I don't know what he was doing with it, but then Gordon picks it up, with his pinkies out and goes, what are these, meat curtains? And I was like, Gordon, you can't say that. And he's like, why? And I'm like, because it means this. And he's like, oh, and I was like, don't say. There's so many times where I'm like, okay, that is not okay in America.
Oh, that's so good. So tell us about, now you move on, you have a family, you get married. What happens to the relationship with the Ramsay and the job and all of that stuff? And tell everybody what you're doing today as well.
I think, 8.5 years was a good run. And I didn't, I wasn't in the position that then after I got married and wanted to start a family to travel a lot. And that was the other side of the TV where I just traveled almost 270 days out of the year at sometimes. So, we talked off and on for a couple of years after I had left, and I helped him with a couple of dinners for the Elton John's Aid Foundation and stuff. But I think when he's just so busy and doing his own thing, we kind of lose touch a little bit. I'm sure if I needed to give him a call, I definitely could, and he'd be there and stuff. We had a pretty tight relationship. But now I'm working for a country club in Key Largo, Florida. It's kind of on an island. We got water on both sides, and it's huge. It's called Ocean Reef Club. Has its own airport, medical center, movie theater, marinas, and golf courses, everything like that. So I oversee 19 different operations that are here and 19 different chefs, and run it for the wealthy. So.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to tell you, when we sent out our surveys, when you committed to come on the show, we had so many responses, and I can tell you that you still have a huge fan base from Hell's Kitchen and all the other shows that Gordon's on, which is like 1 out of every 10 shows that's on TV. The other thing I just want to touch on real quickly is, he seems to be a guy that has a very tight group around him of people he trusts. And he makes it crystal clear. And by the way, no one has watched more Hell's Kitchen than I have. I watch over and over just to make sure I know what I'm doing in preparation for this. You can tell that he really relies on you and Scott. It's obvious, I don't know necessarily. The other ones, to be frank with you, I'm not sure I've even seen him talk to, other than, some of, John Philippe and some others, you could tell there's a relationship there as well. But am I right with that? He's keeping the people that he trusts and he knows that he can rely on really close. I know you maybe have drifted a little bit now, but is that right for the 8 years you're involved with Gordon?
Yeah, I think Gordon's a very open person, and if he trusts you, he brings you in and he brings you in tight, So, you sit down and have dinner with his family, and you kind of, he tells you everything that maybe some of it you shouldn't know, but yeah, and look, when you're on the road with someone and, you go to dinner every night with you and your crew, and, you become really tight. And I was always very, very loyal to him. I still am. And, I love him to death, and I love the opportunities that he gave me. And so, yeah, he's amazing.
That's really cool. I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to start, listeners and viewers, we're going to start a thing of getting you back on the show. Yeah, Christina does a good job, but come on. It's Andi. Got to get her back on the show. What the hell's going on?
I would love to. I'd love to do another one.
I think you should. Kids are all grown. They're out of college now. No, I'm kidding.
No, no, I got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Yeah, I knew they were really young. Tell everybody about just tell us where we can, what's the website for the country club that you're at?
Ocean Reef. Oh, gosh. Let me look.
Is it oceanreef.com?
Yeah, oceanreef.com, I think. Is it?
I think it is.
Who knows?
Well, go to the Keys and check out.
Hold on. Let me find. I have a business card somewhere. Yeah, it is oceanreef.com. So
awesome. Andi, thanks for all the time. We really appreciate it. And I'm sure we'll speak again at some point.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
All right, talk to you soon. Bye.
We'll be back with more What Would You Ask podcast in a second.